Hi, in this video we're going to look at solving equations with ratios. So here we're told that x to 4 is the same as the ratio 2 to 1. You see this ratio 2 to 1 here means that the number here will always be double this number here. So we can see fairly clearly that x is going to be 8 in this case. What the important thing with these questions is basically how to translate these two ratios into an equation. Okay? The obvious choice was actually wrong. Is basically just to multiply these two numbers together to give you 2 lots of x equals to 4. That's obviously wrong, because that tells you x is 2, where we've already seen that x equals 8. So the key thing today when you're solving these type of equations is how to write this equation. So we know that this number here must be double this number. Therefore, to get them both equal to each other, you have to divide this by 2. So here, x divided by 2 is going to equal 4. So the key step, if you want to translate from two ratios to an equation, you want one ratio for the numerators and the other ratio for the denominators. That is basically the whole key idea that underpins basically this entire video. Very easy to get wrong. I see a lot of mistakes people do in this, just blindly times them together. You must always do one divided by the other. So let's see a slightly harder example. So again, we know that this x has to be double this. So to make them the same size, we need to divide. So x divided by 2 will equal x plus 1 over 1, or redundantly x plus 1. And now all we need to do is just solve that equation. So key rule, first thing we hate is any fractions. So we times everything by 2. Note with the right hand side, you're timesing it all by 2. That includes the x and the 1, hence why I put it in brackets. Then we're going to expand it out, and then we just solve that equation. So we get all the x's on one side, and then get everything else on the other side, and we are done. Okay, that's basically the whole idea. There's a few ways I can throw it at you. So here we've got a more worded question. It says express y in terms of x, given that the ratio x to y is equal to the ratio 3 to 1. So that's basically saying that x to y equals 3 to 1, and just before, we're going to do one ratio divided by the other. Then we want y in terms of x, which we've done. Y is x over 3, so that's y in terms of x. So y in terms of x means y equals something else. Okay, same idea. Here for this question, we want x in terms of y. That means for my answer, I want x equals something. We are told the ratio x to y is equal to 3 to 5. So x to y is equal to 3 to 5. And just as before, we want one ratio divided by the other. Okay, then we're going to solve that. We need to get x equals. So I want to get rid of this divide by 3. The opposite of dividing by 3 is timesing by 3, and that will join the y on the top of the fraction. And there we're done. X equals 3y over 5, and that is x in terms of y. Okay, I hope that idea makes sense. For me, still, even after a few years, this step's always slightly unintuitive. But you have to remember if the ratio from x to y is 3 to 5, then y is the bigger number. So you have to do y divided by 5 to give you like 1 unit, instead of x divided by 3 to give you sort of 1 unit. Okay, let's see sort of more awkward questions using that same idea. So here we've got the ratio a to b equals the ratio b to c. We want to find an expression for a in terms of b and c. So this line here basically means for your answer you want a equals something else. So same step, we're going to have one ratio, so a to b there, over the other ratio, b to c. Again, we want a in terms of b and c, so I want a equals, and here I'm dividing by b. The opposite of dividing by b is timesing by b. So it joins the other b on top of the fraction. Okay, let's just do one more slightly harder one using linear, then move on to quadratics. So here the exact same step, 2n plus 1 all over 2 is going to equal n minus 1 all over 3. First step, we've done like the fractions, so we're going to times everything by 3 and also everything by 2. That takes me to this line here. Then we are just going to expand out and solve. So expand both sides, get all the n's on one side, and get everything else on the other side, and then solve that to give n is minus 5 over 4. Okay, and I hope that wasn't too bad. Again, the only real difficulty here is that first step. Okay, just moving on to quadratics. Again, the idea is exactly the same. So first step, we have one ratio divided by the other. Again, we don't need that divided by 1. Then we're going to solve it. The opposite of dividing by 2 is timesing by 2. So it's going to be 2x plus 4, and that expands into 2x plus 8. To solve any quadratic, it must equal 0. So I minus everything across. And then I'm just going to factorize and solve that. So to factorize this, you want two numbers multiplied to give you minus 8, and two numbers that add to give you minus 2. They are minus 4 and plus 2. From there we have our two solutions. If x minus 4 is 0, then x must be 4. If x plus 2 is 0, then x must be minus 2. Okay, I'll just do one more example of a slightly harder one we have to solve a quadratic. So first step's always the same. You have one ratio divided by the other. We then get rid of all my fractions. So the over 1 can just go. We've now got 2x squared equals x plus 6. Again, solving a quadratic, you must make it equal to 0. And now in order to solve this, it's slightly more difficult because you've got 2x squared. What I was taught is basically going through the 3 steps. So step 1, we multiply. You times the first number and the last number together. That gives you minus 12. And you are now looking for two numbers that multiply to give you minus 12, and two numbers that add to give you this number here, which is minus 1x. That will just be minus 4 and plus 3. Step 2 is where we split. That minus 4 and plus 3 tells us how we split this minus 1x in half. So we've now got 2x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 6 equals 0. Again, keep this minus 6, it doesn't become a minus 12 down here. Then we go on to step 3, which is where we grid it out. So in expandable brackets, you normally use the grid. Here we're doing that, we're just working backwards. So we have 2x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 6. And we're going to fill in what's around the outside. So here must have been an x, here we had minus 2, here we had 2x, and here we had 3. So therefore this factorizes into 2x plus 3 and x minus 2. And then again we solve each bracket equal to 0, so either this is 0 or this is 0. Here that tells me that x is going to be minus 3 over 2, and here it tells me that x is going to be 2. And that is it. So it's a new way to solve equations. Again, the first step is the only new thing, but keep in mind it will require knowing all the basic stuff of solving ordinary equations, doing a bit of rearranging, and also solving quadratics. Hope that was useful, and thanks for listening.